Welcome back to the Real Chalk podcast. I'm Jamie,
I'm Sam.
and we've got our head of media, Connor.
How are we, lads? How are things?
Good, Connor. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Episode 1 went down pretty well. Yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, well, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, we got some good feedback. I think it was good crack as well. Good to get the nerves out of the way and then be moving on to number 2.
Yeah, episode 2 will be a lot easier. So
For the record, we had to delete the pilot episode.
Oh yeah. There's one episode we don't talk about, which was two nervous boys in front of camera.
Yeah, a few voice breaks.
Yeah. Anyways,
A few stutters in there as well. I think we're getting it together now.
So today we're going to talk about the Open, new structure, our kind of experiences with the Open, maybe some, I think people kind of enjoyed our competition fails or stories, so maybe a few Open ones this time. And that's really it.
Yeah,
We'll kick
so
off the clock.
let's kick it off and let's get into it.
All right, 10-second countdown.
So Sam, I think, well, I don't even really know a lot about the new structure. So do you want to maybe bring us through the new structure of the Open?
Yeah, so new structure, the Open is changed because it seems to change every year.
Yeah.
This year it's 3 weeks of an Open. Usually it's 5 weeks. It's a long 5 weeks. It's probably the most stressful 5 weeks of the year. But this year it's 3. But then there's going to be like a second kind of Open, which we call the quarterfinals. Quarterfinals.
And how many people will get into that?
So you have to come top 10% in your continent.
Okay, fair.
So it'd be like for us Europe kind of continent, and then if we're hopefully we're the top 10%. Say there's 20,000 people. I'm going to embarrass myself in the maths here, but if there's 20,000 people in Europe, if you're in the top 2,000,
Yes.
Good
maths, fast maths.
Fast. You might move.
I had a calculator right there just in case. I was
Yeah,
like,
we have it in
I'm
the
gonna have to,
background.
I'm gonna have to come in here.
And then does the final stage, it goes back to the kind of like a regionals format, isn't it?
Yeah, so from I think there's another 2 weeks of a second Open from the 10% of people, where it might not be one workout every week. You might have like 3 workouts in a weekend. So it's a bit more like the stage 2 of the games or stage 1 of the games from this year. The online one. And then I don't know the exact numbers, but I think I read on a thing that's like 90 people. I'm not sure if that's male and female or just males and just females.
And did they mention there was last chance opportunities to get in as well, like any type of sanctional competitions that are there as well?
I don't know if it's a sanctional last chance thing. I think there's going to be like 2 regionals in Europe. I don't know how they're going to split them up.
Okay.
So like, hopefully it's kind of split up evenly, that like not all the good athletes are at one, and then like 10 lower tier athletes qualify because all the rest of them went here or something. Hopefully it's split evenly. But then I think there's going to be like another weekend of Open stuff. So the last chance thing's going to be at home.
Okay, since COVID and also the changeover, Eric taking over CrossFit and all, it's been a lot up in the air. We don't really know exactly like what the full format's going to be and that type of thing.
They've released more about the Open and the quarterfinal things more than they have any dates or locations for in-person competitions.
Yeah, I preferred the first structure myself when it was like trying to qualify, say, the top 30 in Europe, and then you get to go to regionals. I think because regionals was such a big goal and there's only 30 people. I know it changed to sanctionals over the last year, and it was cool that, well, you got to hit every single competition of sanctionals.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You got a good experience at them. But I think that definitely opened up, like as an athlete, there was more opportunities for sponsorships because you were on the big stage a lot more. You were kind of on camera a huge amount more. But it was also, if you've managed to hit a few competitions, the goal of getting to a sanctional wasn't as big because you could knew you were going to qualify. I know you went to Dubai and that was a tough one to qualify for, but other than that, you could kind of get there and you get to compete a lot, but it's not that big stage of regionals.
Yeah, it's not as on a pedestal as regionals was. Regionals was, I guess, the goal for so long. Like regionals was like 8 years of regionals. So like every year, I guess the hype was bigger and bigger. Like, oh, who's going to make it this year, sort of thing.
Yeah, and then as well, only being the top 5 that get to go to the games. It was always, when I went to regionals, I wasn't close to the top 5. I think I placed 20th or 22nd maybe in my regional.
I think I was the exact same.
Yeah. But when you watch it back, like it was just complete warfare, to get that spot. And also, but then the sanctionals, I suppose, was a bit mad as well. The way it was, you could come 4th in a sanctional and still get the game spot because it was being passed down, and you were doing maths to see where everyone was at.
You carry the one.
Yeah, exactly. And what about, how did you get on with your sanctionals last year? Like, I know you did a lot of them. How did you find doing all of those sanctional competitions?
Sanctionals were definitely different. There's definitely sometimes it felt like there was more on the line. Sometimes it felt like there was less on the line based on the field of athletes. Because like if you go to Dubai, there is all the guys from the Netflix. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you see
yeah.
all the big names. But like you go somewhere else and there might not be the same kind of caliber. So, and I don't know if it was a good idea that I did so many, but like you got loads of experience, which will hopefully carry along with me into the next season.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like, okay, I think I did the maths. I did like 60 workouts last year in a competitive setting against people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 60 workouts is a lot. So you can't be fully switched on for 60 of them. So
Yeah.
like some days you're like, let's go. Some days you're like, I can't be arsed. Like I'm not in the zone.
I think it depends on your big goal too, because if you look at your season and like say if you had done half of them, you might have placed higher in some of them, but at the same time your goal isn't just to place high in a sanctional, it's to get to the game. So if you have all that experience under your belt, I suppose that's going to pay off as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was kind of it was more of a bigger picture kind of process. Look, get all the competition experience, and then because I didn't have a lot of competition experience going before that year. Like I'd done regionals. That was my first individual competition, really.
Yeah.
I know we did that one years ago, the BroFit one.
Oh yeah. Across in CrossFit Ireland.
Yeah.
That was good.
That was good fun.
That was our first time we competed against each other.
Yeah.
It was called the BroFit Games in CrossFit Ireland, and I went over and I knew you were like up and coming and the big dog there, but we didn't really compete against each other much because I was more competing against like Owen McGregor, Rob Flanagan, PD Savage, and Army as well. So I think it was like 2015 maybe. I was joined first in Ireland with Army, coming into the final workout. So then you were then up and coming, and I remember it was like quite close with us in the workouts.
Yeah.
And you were doing all of your fighting as well, and we came to a rope climb workout, and you were just an absolute ninja going up that rope, and I was like, what is going on here?
I remember it was legless rope climbs in my hands. I don't know how I did this, but the sides of my fingers were missing skin for like 2 weeks. I didn't know how to go up or down the rope properly, just legless.
Yeah, legless as well. You're flying.
Pretty much legless down as well.
That's always the way when you're in competition as well, though, when you're looking around and it's like, do I use my feet or do I just let go from the top?
Yeah,
like, you just got to
save so much
drop
time,
and go.
but will I break an ankle?
Yeah, exactly. What was your favourite sanctional from last year, do you think?
Favorite sanctional? I liked the Phil 250, but I'd have to say Dubai just because the whole experience was ridiculously bizarre. Like there's so much money pumped into the event. Strangely, when you go to competitions and like you can see how they make the money back to spectators and like vendor villages and stuff. Like there was not as many spectators as most sanctionals at all, and there was like one Reebok stand. Like you could see like there was just a person making this competition because they had loads of money and they think CrossFit is class.
Yeah.
So it was weird. We were in like we went to the sea. We talked about that last week. We went to this like professional running track of a guy who like, I think Manchester United get to train there or something.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Like it was like this underground changing room thing, and it's ridiculous, and just kind of stuff like that. You don't forget that kind of stuff.
When you go to like a big comp like that, like for me, since 2016, I won the French Throwdown in 2016, and since then, well, it means something extra to me because it was like my first win before I went to regional, so it's a huge competition for me. But other than that, I also think it's like, I know we did it together last year, but there's some sanctionals that are just Filthy 150 being one as well. But the French for me is probably my favorite one, just because I find, there's any competition that's good prize money also attracts a ton of big dog athletes, but they also really push the limits with their events. Like
I remember French was serious last year, especially with the heat.
Yeah, the
40-degree heat.
Exactly, it was crazy. Everyone after every workout, because when you're watching the heat before you and the heat is in the guys that are about to go before you. You're watching them and you're kind of seeing how they come out. And if they're in absolute bits, you're like, oh no, what am I going to go through? Yeah. And it was so hot in there and the air conditioning had broken down. And I remember,
stadium, and
in the briefing, before the event even started, usually they talk about like how the fittest is going to win this competition. Well, they weren't even really talking like that. They were more like, just make sure you get through this competition safely.
Yeah,
because it was such crazy heat.
I think they were like almost obliged to medically or something, or just to get themselves cleared for insurance to say like, watch out for the heat. Yeah. Like we have to go through a list of things we have to say to you almost. It was so bad. I just remember it wasn't even like, didn't even feel like your fitness was letting you down. It just felt like you got smacked by a wall and just couldn't move. I remember there was like a thruster with kettlebells and pull-ups workout, and I just remember like I'm breathing okay, but I actually can't move right now.
Yeah.
Just was ridiculous.
My favorite athlete at that competition was Lucas Parker. So
The ice vest.
oh yeah. So I met Lucas Parker first time ever in my first abroad competition, which was in Italy in the Italian Showdown, and he was paid to come over to do that competition. So he was like the big dog. He'd been to the games a load of time. He was the big lumberjack, crazy looking fella. Like he was scary. So he was the big dog then. And then in this competition now in the French Throwdown, to skip forward 3 or 4 years, I was able to compete against him, which was unbelievable. I remember being beside him in a few of the heats, but because of the heat of the event and how hot it was, he was wearing this, what I thought was a life jacket for the first one. So we were going out on a run. And so the first event was
like a mile run.
Yeah,
There
a
was
mile run.
paddleboard across the lake.
Yeah.
And then like a close to 10k run
Yeah,
after.
a big run
Ridiculous.
after.
In
So
40-degree heat.
yeah, so I'm beside him and I'm like, why is this lad wearing a life jacket? Like we're running most of it. He's going to be grand.
And you'd be fine on the paddleboard.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm right beside him, and I remember that when you get to the lake, they had the first 5 paddleboards in the water, and then the rest of them you'd have to go and get off the stand. So I was kind of like sprint ahead. So firstly, I always think if you're about to start a running race, you have to be in the very front. If you're not in the front, well then you're kind of saying like I'm going to lose already. You have to fight your way into
It
the
was
front.
actually me versus you. I remember you were at the front, and you had a genius tactic because you were like, some guy was like, sun cream, everyone get your sun cream, and you're spraying it, and you're like, yeah, right here. And as you like put your hand out, you like squeezed into the front row.
Exactly.
That's
I was
genius.
at the back.
As I watched from the back row.
That's it. You and me were standing beside each other, and I couldn't get through. And I was trying to like shuffle in or trying to talk to Willie George was there. I was like, "Hey man," and he's like, "No, get away from me." So with the second they said sun cream, I was like, "I'll take some of that." I just wiggled my way into the front. But then so we sprinted down to the lake once the run kicked off. And I don't know if it was like kind of the rugby inside me or something, but we're on the paddleboards. Lucas Parker's beside me, and I'm on my knees, like going, but he's an expert. He's standing on it. So I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll jab his board, which was absolutely mental. I'm even thinking back now, I don't know how I got away with it. And he just turns at me and starts screaming. And I started going backwards. Like I was like, no, I don't want to win this anymore. Let me out of here. So
Aboard.
yeah, so that was one part with him. And then the final thing, skip forward to the final of the French Throwdown. It was top 10, so I was there. I think I was coming 9th maybe, and he was 8th. So we were right beside each other. And again, he was wearing his life jacket as he was wearing at every event. So, but I hadn't gotten to know what it was yet. So I go just before, they're like 10 seconds, and I step into his lane and touch his back, just because I wanted to see what the hell his jacket was. And he's like, "Get off me!" And I was like, "Oh!" But it was really cold, so it turns out it was an ice vest to bring his
'cause I
temperature
remember-
down, which is pretty cool.
Going past him on the run and thinking, what is that? And it was just dripping. I was like, is that full of ice? Is
Yeah.
that going to keep him cold on this run?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think that's going to save you on this workout.
No.
You just need to run faster.
But he is known for his mad techniques, or like different warm up things or breathing things and those type of
He had
things.
a big, like, what's he called, like kazoo sort of thing? He was like getting his breath powered up, and he was like blowing into this kazoo in the warm up area. And I was like, what is going on?
I've never heard of a kazoo, man.
Kazoo, like, it's like, looks like this, and
Okay, yeah. Oh, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
but he.
I was picturing like the vuvuzelas from like the World Cup.
It was like one of them, a smaller one of them, to like get his lungs working. But I remember in that, just to finish off on that first run workout, it was 2 scores. So it was like the whole total time of the paddleboard run. The last 100 meters uphill was a second score.
Yeah.
And I remember
It was a sprint
it was
finish.
a sprint finish. So you had to get 100 meters for your second kind of score, score B or A or whatever.
Yes.
And I remember he like was so bad at running the with his ice. His ice must have been weighing him down, and he just stopped before just before your timing chip went to go for the last 100-meter run. Rested, and then just sprinted and won.
He won it.
So you came last in the first.
Yeah.
thing, and then got 100 points.
But
for the
that's what I
second.
mean as well. He's real particular on events like that.
Yeah.
Like he breaks them down. Like I think we'd both go in like bullheaded wild, just go mental and see
Yeah,
what happens. While he's
yeah.
like, I'm just gonna rest on this, let my ice vest bring me through it, and then go full attack on the end. So,
think so.
he's definitely an athlete to look at though, because he's so experienced. He really does know the game.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of the stuff might seem mad now, but I think even looking back,
We'll all have kazoos. Next.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Will we quickly go through maybe our kind of open experiences as well? Or we still
Yeah,
have time?
100%,
We'll go
yeah, go
through,
for it.
Is it stressful doing the open? Like especially now that it's going to be at home. Like does that add anything to it, or does it take away some of the stress? Because like I feel in person competing against each other, it might be easy to like kind of get in the zone. But is it harder at home to like I don't know motivate yourself to do these mad workouts? Like
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Yeah, I think though, once you know what the bigger picture is, like I have to do this workout and I have to smash it to get to this next stage. I think it kind of gives you the, I guess, extra strength you need to get through sometimes.
Yeah, and I think like the whole COVID structure and the new structure as well, the way they're trying to make it really accessible, can almost play in your favor a little bit with training. Like, of course, I think both Sam and I are training to go past the Open and get to the games. Whether I'm going to do a bit of individual and a bit of team, or he's going individual, we've got our own goals for the games. But it also allows you, if you're focusing on the Open anyway, almost like studying for an exam, you can kind of wipe things out. Like, we know that they're going to make it more accessible, so they've named some of the equipment that you're going to be using. So like, say, dumbbells, we know that huge amount of dumbbells is going to be in for at least the first 3 weeks, and it's not going to be a heavy barbell because not everyone has a heavy barbell at home. So I think for our training and coming up to the Open, we know we have to be really efficient with a dumbbell, and definitely with 2 dumbbells as well, which can be quite heavy for high volume snatches and clean and jerks and that type of thing. So I'll definitely be spending some extra work, more time on dumbbells than I usually would have beforehand.
Yeah, I think for the Open, or at least this first part of the Open, will be a lot more kind of aerobic and accessible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I got one for you. Last year, when we were going for the fittest in Ireland.
Yeah.
So obviously I wanted to be fittest in Ireland. That's a big goal.
Of course,
but
yeah.
I've got one better title for you. Fittest in Nigeria. That's what I wanted. So my dad was born in Nigeria, okay? So I was, and the year beforehand, when everyone, I saw Emma McQuaid and Mickey Smith walking around the stadium with the Irish flag and the white top on, I was like, that's unbelievable, but I don't see anyone representing Nigeria. So I went home and I was chatting to my dad, and I was like, can I get a Nigerian passport? So he was like, I'm not actually quite sure. So I think if he was born 6 years earlier in Nigeria before they got independence, now I'm not 100% sure of the dates, but I did look into it. I would have been able to just show up at the embassy and get a passport. But so that isn't the case now. What you have to do is you have to go down and you have to bring a tribe of elders with you. So my yes, okay. Exactly. So my girlfriend's brother is from Nigeria. So I was saying this to Jay, and I was like, Jay, I'm becoming Nigerian. And he's like, yes, my brother, this is going to be epic. And he was buzzing for me as well. So, but I was saying all the things I'd have to do. So I was like, I'm going to have to go down to the embassy. I need 16 elders to come with me and quote for me. And I also need to know like the Code of Independence. And he was like, don't worry, I'm going to bring 16 of my mates now. It fell true and it never actually happened. But me and my dad were fully preparing to go down and to have our Nigerian passport.
Nigerian
so don't
champion.
be surprised if in a couple of years, if I'm hanging on trying to get to first in Ireland, you might see me on with the old Nigerian flag representing. I think I'll be the only Nigerian CrossFitter.
You get your games jersey and has the little Nigerian flag.
Yeah, 100%. So that's my big goal anyway.
That'd be very good. Yeah. I'd back it.
Yeah, I think so.
Was this Nigerian embassy, was this like in Nigeria, or is this just in like Ballsbridge?
No, I can go to Ballsbridge. I just have to bring my whole crew with me. That's
I have this image of like the 17 of you just walking through Ballsbridge like in tribal
100%.
Gear.
Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah.
And with the CrossFit flag as well. They're like, what is going on here?
And Reeboks, yeah. Would you have any? Obviously, we're saying the Open is extremely stressful, or at least it's 3 weeks of stress now, rather than 5. But like, would you have any like really stressful experiences or bad experiences or anything that went wrong before?
Yeah, so I suppose like looking at the Open, yeah, you're 100% right. Like, it is stressful. You're always thinking so I always stay up to watch the announcement anyway. I definitely can't sleep through the Open announcement.
Yeah,
so
I had to start turning off my phone and like.
Do you put airplane mode on, or do you wait till the morning?
I had to like actually put my phone off and leave it off. And
do you leave it until the morning? You don't look at it?
The last Open, I got the first 3 weeks of that, and then I just actually was like shaking at night. I couldn't not look for it.
Yeah, that's the same as me. So I might go to bed at like 10 because I'm like, I need a good sleep, and then I'll just, for those 2 hours, I'll basically just continuously dream up mad Open workouts and keep thinking that it's been released. So I always set my alarm so I can wake up, check what the workout is, and then it kind of puts me at ease. But still, then you're going through your head, how are you going to break it up?
Strategies.
Yeah, breaking it up, strategies, trying to look at all different videos. I always watch the live event, especially if there's good athletes, so I can kind of compare myself to them. I love when Noah Olsen does it. I always try to check out his, because not that I'm at his level, but I think that I'm a similar athlete to him. Like, what I'm good at, he's good at, and what I'm bad at, he's bad at. So I always try to look at athletes that would be similar to me. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's what one thing was kind of a bit shit about the sanctional season. Like, not always they didn't always have the best athletes.
Yeah.
Like when it was regionals, wherever Cross organised the Open announcement, it was always like the best of the best every week, and you could be like, okay, that's a great score to aim for.
Yeah, they tried to make it really, really inclusive, I think, which is nice. Like, it's great to see the whole community come together, and it's cool to watch after. But I think when you're in it and you're trying to think of the best score that you're going to get, you want to see like Rich Froning and Fraser going head to head, because those epic battles, even watching that beforehand, makes you want to just go to war.
Yeah, for sure. Would you have a favorite open workout ever?
Yeah, definitely. For my favorite one was the snatch event in 2017, the one that finishes with the 3 lifts, I think, on 120 kilos.
Yeah, with all the chest bars as well.
Yes, exactly. Like, chest bars are good for me, and snatch or heavy lifting in general is really good.
Yeah.
But when I got to the 120 kilo bar, once I kind of finally got there and things slowed down, I knew if I hit 1 rep, I had a good chance of going to regionals, and if I could finish it, you're finishing really high in Europe. So that was definitely the big one for me and what made me qualify.
Valuable points.
What about you?
I liked the one, I think it was 19.4, where it had like snatches and burpees over the bar, and then it had like a built-in 3-minute rest, and then you had to do bar muscle ups and burpees.
That was basically a pure sprint.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, very good.
Very good. Well, that's us for today.
I have one question before we end it. It just popped into my head. Is there any athlete you think people should keep an eye on? Like, obviously last year, Justin Medeiros came out of nowhere. I really enjoyed him working. Like, it kind of felt last year there was this kind of like, Matt obviously ran away with it from like early on. Like, Justin put up a bit of a fight, and the 2nd and 3rd place was a really enjoyable fight to watch in the games. Is there anyone you're kind of looking forward to watching or even competing against and checking their scores this year?
I like looking at, so I know Olsen's been around for ages. I respect him as an athlete. I think he's really good. Mainly because after every event he's on the ground dead. You can just see he really gave it everything, and I can relate to that because I definitely don't look pretty when I'm doing a workout. About 2 seconds in, I look like I am about to die. So I go back him all the way, and I hope he keeps doing really well.
Yeah, for sure. Up and coming athletes would be hard to think. I know you said Justin Medeiros, but I want to see him do even better this year, because I don't think he had even a spectacular open. He just got to the Filthy 50 and then absolutely smashed everyone. So I'd like to see him do the new system, kind of smash everything, like open.
Yeah, I'm hoping he
and then
comes
crush
back.
everything.
Yeah, and he's not just like one and done, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't think he will be. Hopefully, crushes it.
Yeah. All right, that's me now. You're allowed to end it. I'm happy.
All right. That's
okay, guys. Well, we will see you back next week. I think we might chat a little bit more about the Open and some more competition experiences in our next podcast. But that's us for today.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Real chalk.